To start out on the head and neck, if maybe your client has just got a lot of problems with their neck and you don't really want to do a full body on them, but you do have to just work on the neck, is one of the things you want to do is check the range of motion with the neck, and you can just roll it back and forth. The thing that you're going to find is that people really do tend to hold their neck. They hold their neck very tightly sometimes. So you're going to have to work with them to relax the neck, and sometimes holding the head like so, they don't feel real safe about turning their neck or turning their head because they feel like they're going to hurt if their neck is hurting. So what I like to suggest is that you hold the neck with the hand. I'll show you how you do it. You kind of change hands under the neck, but you're supporting the neck with the hand, and then the base of the skull is on the bone part of your hand, kind of the little part where the fingers and the wrist come together. Right here is where the head is going to be resting. So you hold it, and then you can stretch as you're rolling into that hand, your arm is going to be supporting their head, so you can bring the neck to the head to the side, and then with your fingers on the other side, which you can't see right now, you can stretch up the neck on this trapezius, on the neck muscles. Rotate the head, get in that position with your other hand underneath, and here's where the fingers come up the neck and stretch. Now the head, you want to also bring it forward, and then you can lower it, and you can kind of feel how their head is going to be. Sometimes it's very easy to turn their head. In this case, it's very elastic. The head moves very well. But in people who tend to sit in front of computers a lot and not get a lot of exercise, you'll find that they're very stiff in the neck. Now, another nice hold for the neck is to take the palm of your hand and hold the back of the head, the whole occiput part of the head. I turn my finger so it's held kind of like this. And then the other hand is going to be at the neck, so you lift the neck up like it's nodding forward, and then you push the vertebrae up as you bring it back, and then lengthen and lift and press and lengthen and lift and press and lengthen. Okay, so that's just a couple things to start. It's pretty relaxing. That's another thing you could do with that, is if it's at the end of a massage, it's a real good way to end a full body massage. So I'm going to start doing a little bit of lymph, just because I do like to get the fluid moving, and I know this isn't really massage at all. It's not massage therapy. But I'm going to open up the neck chain, and that's with little, very, very light. Your skin stretching primarily, and you're feeling, and what I'm feeling is there's definitely some stuff that needs some work in there, not only lymphatically, but also a little bit with massage. And just work that down. Now, I don't really want to put oil on people's faces. So basically, my face massage is much more of a lymphatic massage. And you just work with stretching the skin stretching under the chin, along the jawline, and up the nose and face. And this is just to basically move the fluid. It takes some skill to get the fingers to work right on this, but if you think about moving fluid that's right underneath the skin, and your hands are somewhat familiar with the subtler structures, you'll be able to feel it and figure it out. Okay. Now, the other thing is, now this is a little more of a massage technique, where we're going to just pull the forehead up and down. going across the forehead. And the other direction. And then just pull up very slowly and up. And up. Going up into the hairline. And you're just following kind of the brow line across the forehead. And up. I'm going to say something here because I've had some not so good experiences on tables with people that aren't quite as sensitive to different things, or they just don't know what they're doing. But where the sphenoid bone is, which is right here, we've talked about that in cranial videos. The sphenoid bone, it's a really important bone for balance and for other things. But sometimes people will take this bone and just press in with their thumbs really hard, and it's so uncomfortable. And I really don't like that because it doesn't feel good, and I have a really good understanding of what's happening when they do that. So if you're going to use pressure on the head with any massage techniques, I would highly suggest that you pay attention to where the sphenoid is and not put a lot of pressure over that bone. It's kind of like going on the back of the knee or down in deep into the elbow or armpit. You want to just be careful of where some structures are. And then you can go around the eyebrows, and that can be a pull. This is more of a massage technique. It's more of a pull. When you get down into the muscle a little more or deeper into the fascia, you're not really into the lymph system. So I'm kind of combining it a little bit. And then you can do the same thing under the eyes, and you want to pull up on that. And this is all massage technique. If you're doing lymphatic technique there, then you're going to skin stretch it. You'll skin stretch it. So instead of one long swoop, you're actually opening little avenues for the lymph to flow in those little tiny vessels there. When you go with much pressure and you're working more into the skin, like the massage technique, the little vessels are disappearing because the pressure's too much. So you're not going to get much lymph movement with that. You can go around the ears, just making little circles around the ears. And then go on the soft parts of the ears, just making little circles on the cartilage there, which is kind of nice. Working up that way. And then you can take a little pull. Now the pull isn't going to be just yanking out like that. If you're going to pull it, do a cranial pull where you're deep into where the ear is attached, and then just kind of give it a little pull, which isn't a real pull. It's more of a, I don't know what you'd call it. It's just kind of a stretch, I guess you could say, where you're not really pulling real hard, but there's tension there so that you are definitely stretching it. And what you're actually doing from a cranial level is you're stretching the tentorium. So you want to, and you're also working with the temporal bones a little bit, so you want to just make it real delicate as you pull. It's very relaxing. And there's a bunch of nodes there, so just kind of work that down. And then the neck. So then working into the neck, you can turn the head and you can start with the shoulder bound here and pull up into the neck there. So as you're getting down into the shoulders, and this works, you might want to put some oil on with this or not. It just depends on how dry a person is. And the same thing on this side, just pulling up to do that. Now I like to also do this cranial base release, which is a nice thing to do, although it is a cranial technique, and there are some things that you need to know about it. One is you don't want your fingers on the vertebrae. You want them on either side of the vertebrae. Number 2 is you don't want it on the bone itself. You want it at the lower point of the bone to where your fingers are sort of tucked in behind the bone and your fingers are pointed, directed toward the eyes. So you're on the soft tissue below the bone, because that's what the muscles that you're relaxing. And if you can just sit there and hold it there and just let the weight of their head, you don't want to push up into it. That's not the idea here. It's allowing the weight of the gravity and pulling it down, and then it's going to just soften it on its own. And if you know how to do this technique, you can also lift it up and bring their head up. And what you'll notice there is the neck will tense up in some people. There was a little tension bringing it up because the head needs to drop more forward on this. And it's not that you don't want them to do any help. So it's all just balancing it. And then you can allow the head to come back naturally and then bring it out. And so sometimes that's a little uncomfortable at first for people, and it's uncomfortable for the therapist till you get your hands used to it. But it's a very nice release. It opens up the between the occiput and the atlas, so you're opening up that space. Okay, so moving right along, moving to the chest. This is a little lymph work here. Now there's 2 things that happen in the chest. You can drain the pleura, or you can drain the lungs, which is a different direction. But we're not going to get into that now. So I'm just working into the muscles here, a little bit on the surface, and going along where they're attached. It's very important, to be a thorough massage therapist, you do need to work the attachments along the bones. So many times it's just the belly of the muscle that's worked. And what you can find is when you start to do that, you can correct a lot of things because you'll be able to feel twists in the body. So oftentimes you'll find that there'll be some joints that are out of joint. The sternocleidomastoid muscle, where it attaches, oftentimes will pull, when the neck is out, it'll pull the sternoclavicular joint out and the sternocleidomastoid joint also out. And sometimes just going into those 2 joints and holding it and letting it take you around like you do with cranial work, like you do with the more subtle fascial work, which is a more advanced type of work. You can correct shoulder pain pretty quickly, because oftentimes shoulder pain and even neck pain is because there's a misalignment. In fact, misalignment is usually why there's pain. So let's go to the arms, and we'll start with this arm. I'm going to just loosen it up and see how. This is just checking range of motion. The other thing is that when a person is going to allow you to just move them around, they don't have much unconscious stress that they're holding because they're able to let it all go. When you have people that are, kind of hard to move because they're helping, then that's really unconscious stress going on. And then when you ask them to relax, they still can't really relax. So you'll get a little bit of a monitor of how much stress their body is actually carrying. So with massage, you always start distal and you go proximal. And I'm just working in through the fingers. I like to do a combination of lymph and a little bit of cranial on the head and face. But now that we're down here on the body, we're going to just do strictly into the muscles. So the hand, you can work one way and the inside. Again, you want to work to getting in between the bones, taking it in there, finding any tension that you might find. And if you find the tension, then hold it out. Now it's good to do a little range of motion while you're down here, just stretching the hand and moving it around in different ways. Hands are really important. It's important to keep them flexible and strong. And if you're working with your hands, be sure that you keep your hands in a good alignment pattern. The wrist can be checked here with range of motion. And sometimes it's nice to kind of grasp onto the little end of the edge of the hand here on either side. There's a little dent there. And then just you can also pull the arm. And sometimes you'll feel a release in the wrist and maybe even the elbow. Sometimes the wrist gets a little jammed just from doing what we're doing. Now we're just going to go up the muscle of the arm, the big belly muscle. The other side of the arm is a little more delicate because that's where the more of the veins and things run, closer to the surface there. So we want to be a little more careful when you're running into the back of the arm. Same with the inner side of the arm. Now she's tucking herself in, holding on to that. And now we're going to go up to the bicep, tricep. I like to just run up the muscle. You can tell a lot, and you don't have to push with a lot of pressure. Go where the muscle tells you and iron it out. If there's a big wad there, you'll know, and you can stop and wait on it if there's some tension. And doing a little kneading on the arm as well, and the shoulder and up into the neck. I'll do it on the other side so you'll be able to see this. Okay, we can take our hand underneath the shoulder here, find the edge of the shoulder blade, work it in, see if it's movable. Okay, so then you can just finish up the arm and check the shoulders. And, just remember that the arms are connecting into the neck and then across the shoulder, across the platysma and the pectoralis. Another thing that you can do along here, which is kind of nice and oftentimes missed, is just start at the sternum and just give a little pull up along here you're right along the ribs, actually. You can feel the intercostal muscles of the ribs. It's kind of nice to go in between the ribs at times. All right, so here we go. We're going to oil up the arm. The hand. Okay, so we're just going to start with the thumb, the hands, the fingers. Just moving it up. And now I'm going between, the muscles between the fingers. It's best to go between the bonier structures because that's softer tissue. And there's the wrist. Underneath the hand, or on the palm part, stretching it open. Working the muscles, the fingers a little bit in range of motion. Kind of work them around. And then grab that little spot. There's right there and there is where you give a nice pull. The two arm bones come into there, so it's a nice pull, and really a lot of times you'll feel quite a change sometimes in the wrist. But you want to do it gently and with a little bit of bend in it. Don't just yank. Never yank on people. You don't want to cause harm or I don't think, when people hurt after a massage, I really don't think that's the way it is intended. Even if it needs deep tissue work, you can get into the deep tissue without forcing yourself in. So this is just, just running up the big belly of the muscle, and then smoothing out the back side. But again, you want to be careful about the thumb irons on that side because everything is much closer to the surface. And then we move up to the big arm, going up this way. And again, working into this muscle, kneading it. I know they give a lot of different strokes, but after you do massage for a while, you kind of know how to work the muscle without going through maybe a particular protocol of every stroke that you were taught. It'll change. If you're mindful of it and you pay attention, you'll get your own style down. So around the shoulder blade, the deltoid. And then we can lift up here and just go underneath to the edge and find that spot. You can stretch a little there. And then we can also work into that area here. A little bit in between into those intercostal muscles. And there we go. Remember, if you're coming down the arm, you don't want to have a lot of pressure with it because everything in massage goes up to the heart. You're working primarily circulation of the blood. Lymphatic is completely different. There you start proximal and work distally because it's a whole different system. So understand that the two systems have to be worked differently to get the effects off of them. So I'm going to do a little bit of work on the stomach. Okay, so in a circular way, and again, I'm more prone to doing abdomen work with a little more lymphatically. Now here, I'm going to show you some things. If you're going to, the liver is right here, and the liver takes on a lot of work. So there's a way to drain it, and it's a good thing to do, is just you kind of go under it and move like so. This is not really a complete draining technique, but it does move the liver around, and then kind of sweep it up that way, getting along the rib cage there, and then the ribs down here, run yourself through these ribs so that you get into the intercostal area here. You can kind of see how it's going, and there, and then you can kind of get underneath here, underneath the cage a little bit. And same with this hip crest. You want to go up around the hip crest, the muscles that are attached, and then take it in a circular motion, starting here at the kind of the lower right quadrant, and round it up this direction. I'm taking it halfway because I'm going to continue to, now this time I'm going on this hip because of the circular, that's the way the intestines move, and then along the rib cage, and then you want to also get into that, the intercostals, find how they're going. And then I'm going to continue to pick up here. Now there's a structure here called the cisterna chili that is a lymph structure, and I like to pump there because sometimes it's real full. But then you have to come up here and also pump here. And then bring yourself around here and then bring that down. So you're actually working the large intestine here, and then you can come all the way around up and through and around. And then if you have another chance at it, you can kind of vibrate it going around, which is kind of tricky sometimes to do. And then on the center part, just knead it a little bit. That's where the small intestines are, the mesentery. The stomach is like right here. The fundus of the stomach is over there. It enters into the small intestines here and in the large intestines about here. Sometimes you're going to feel, I've had people say that they think they have a tumor like right around here, but what that is that's just the waste moving into that large intestine, the ascending colon. So it's not necessarily a tumor, but I have heard people get kind of concerned about it. But if you manipulate it a little while, sometimes it's a little stuck. People get a little constipated. You can pump it a little bit and work it, and it'll start to move. So that way you know that it's not. Tumors and cysts have very definite feelings to them. And this is just a little rocking back and forth. Now I'm going to show you if they're really stuck in the intestine. There's a technique called a recoil, where you lay your hands completely across the stomach, and then the stomach runs in this clockwise direction. So what we're going to do is we're going to move it in a counterclockwise direction, just the opposite. So you grab onto the skin, and the skin is pulling everything underneath it via the fascia. So you're not pushing hard. It may look like I'm pushing hard, but I'm really not. And there's a little bit of oil on here, so it's a little slippery. But you're feeling like you're Velcroed. You're working with Velcro, and you're stuck to the body with Velcro. And you keep moving it in this opposite direction. And then you wait on it sometimes to catch up. And you keep winding it backwards, and you're going to feel when you don't want to go any further. And then very quickly you pull off, and that recoils it back, and sometimes that will get things moving in the stomach. That's a little bit of a lymph technique, but it also can work to loosen up a little bit of the muscle, a little bit of the fascia. And so there we have the stomach. Okay, so this is part of the video that we're going to show. We're going to have another part to it. So this is the end of this part. Thank you so much for viewing it. Thank you so much for your comments, and hopefully you will come back for the rest of the body. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. And I think there's a little bell up there that you can hit that you'll get a notification every time we post. So if you want to, you can hit that too. But thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.